share a bit about myself and Pivot first, and then I would turn it over to both of you to share a bit more about your backgrounds, and then we'll dive right into it. Does that sound good? Yeah, great.
Yep.
So yeah, for people who don't know about me or about Pivot, basically, I started Pivot a couple of years back to focus on helping people make smoother career transitions from one field to another. So we have helped a lot of people, for example, who have gone on from just pure play engineers to become data analytics or data science professionals. We have also helped people outside of tech fields in case there are any of you who are considering multiple career options. And the sole focus here is to provide key solutions that will make your transition smoother, more effective, and ultimately successful. That being said, I want to take the chance here to just share a bit about Nitin and Kavya. So both Nitin and Kavya are data science leaders at their companies at Google and Amazon, respectively. And I believe that, Nitin, you have also had some experience in US. So is that correct?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Right. So both of them have experience working in India and US in the data field. So this session will help you understand kind of what are the upcoming trends from a data career standpoint, as well as what it is like to work in multiple geos like India and US. So thanks again, Nitin and Kavya, for joining us. Maybe, Nitin, we can start with you first if you want to share just a little bit about your journey and background as a data professional.
Absolutely, Anjan. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining. So just to start with my introduction, I'm Nitin. I'm currently leading Cloud AI Industry Solution Services for Google Cloud India. I'm with Google for last 6.5 years, around like 7 years. Yeah, I will be finishing up my 7 year in March. I started my career as a software engineer with a small Indian IT company, Compro Technologies, based out in New Delhi. At that point of a time, I got to know about big data. So I used to work a lot on SQL, working on data models and few other things, little bit on optimization without knowing that, okay, this is going to be a field someday. I always wanted to be a .NET and Java developer, but unfortunately, I've never got a chance to work on Java. So I don't know, you can call it as a good or bad, but at that time I used to call it as a bad thing. So just like a typical Indian, I did my engineering and then I went for my MBA. In my MBA, because I was doing really bad on accounting and as well as on HR, I took the courses on statistics. So again, that point of a time, there was not a lot of buzz about data science or anything else. I started liking it, and then I thought that, okay, this is the field where I should be moving forward with. So after that, I did my MBA from IIT. I got campus EXL as a senior consultant. So I joined that team, leading a team for data scientists for healthcare verticals, building up some chatbots that time back in 2015. So, and eventually I joined Google back in 2016 as a data scientist, primarily in AdWords, in a trust and safety team to identify and, like you would say, protect our user ecosystem for the ads or some products or something like that that's not compliant to Google policies. Then eventually I moved back to Google US in 2018 in Google Cloud team because cloud was expanding. So I was there in US for 4 years. I came back in India this year, early this year in January, and I built this team from scratch for Google India in Cloud AI. So my team is actually responsible for building custom AI solutions for our strategic customers. We work with them, we define their AML policies and help them solving some really complex problem and building technologies from scratch. So that's on professional side. On personal side, I have a son. I love spending time with him. So he's in terrible twos right now, 2.5 years. So he's a blast.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nitin. That was great, very comprehensive, and seems like you have definitely covered a lot of grounds in terms of being an engineer and then a data professional as well. Thanks again for joining. Kavya, if you want to go ahead and share a bit about your background, great.
Yeah, I think I can draw some similarities with Nitin in some cases where it was not like I exactly knew that I wanted to be in this field. I started off with an engineering similar to him. I think it's a thing with Indians where, or at least the part of India that I come from, where you first do engineering and then you think about what you want to actually do. So in my case, I actually finished my engineering in electronics and communications with the hope that I will, work with my dad in the same field. He has an industry in the same field. And sometime in the third year of my engineering, I had cold feet. I lost interest in electronics and communications engineering. And then I was chatting with my cousin, who at the time was working in this data science startup in India called Mu Sigma. And he was applying for colleges, and he got into Northwestern University in their data science program. And he started telling me about the field itself. And it sounded very cool to be able to predict things. And that's how it started for me. So I followed path. I got a master's in the same field. And then right after master's, I got a job in New York actually in an advertising firm. But in that advertising agency, I was doing advanced analytics and building data science models to help prove the impact of advertising on a certain KPI. I've done that. I was in that field, in that company for a little over 2.5 years, close to 3 years. And then I interviewed with Amazon. Amazon advertising at the time was growing. It still is growing pretty fast, but at the time it was growing from scratch. And they were building off their kind of like analytics consulting wing and data science consulting wing, where that's where I got my job at Amazon that I started with at Amazon. And what we would do is, similar to my previous role, we would be building analytical frameworks or models to kind of prove or quantify the impact of different advertising tactics on a certain KPI for an advertiser. Then we would work with a bunch of leading advertisers in the world that were also selling on Amazon. But also advertisers that don't sell on Amazon that really are in. Anyway, I did that for 2.5 years. And then the beauty about Amazon is, and I'm sure any other larger company, is that they do encourage finding a different role internally. And so I've always been interested in startups and wanted to learn about the ecosystem. And so I found this role, my current role, 2 years ago almost. And the current role is in the AWS for Startups org. So what we do is Amazon Web Services is a cloud provider. It's one of the cloud providers. And this particular org that I am in caters to helping startups across the world build and scale fast and do that on AWS. And in that org, I lead a bunch of data initiatives, all the way from analyses, frameworks, to creating strategy for how we go to market, but also thinking about some of the predictive stuff that we need in the org in using startup data. We can dive a little deeper when needed, but that's a bit about me.
Awesome. All right, great. Thank you for sharing that, Kavya. Again, it seems like you've also had quite a journey so far, and definitely some commonalities between yours and Nitin's background in terms of how you started out and the kind of products and services you're working on today to help other businesses. So I want to kick it off with a fairly basic question for the benefit of the uninitiated, perhaps, in the workshop today, which is, it's probably a question you get a lot. What kind of roles really exist within data field, right? I mean, these are the basics that data professionals have to grapple with if they are just starting out in the field. What I have heard is, there's obviously data analytics field, and there's data science, and then there's data engineering as well. And perhaps you may be seeing other trends for other nomenclatures, terminologies for different kinds of roles. So it would be really helpful if you could help us just break it down and simplify what kind of roles really exist, and how should a person who's starting out in data field identify the best fit role for themselves. So maybe Nitin, if you want to kick it off.
Yeah, sure, Arjun. So in my experience, Arjun, what I have seen is these kind of rules changes from one organization to another organization based on their maturity level on data, on infrastructure, on AI, ML, data science, and multiple other factors. Like you can say it's a data pyramid at what level that they are. These roles change. But overall, what I have seen, there are like four kind of typical categories. What I have seen. The first category, what I should say, it's primarily on data processing. When I say the data processing, it means people who can build a data pipeline, then for data ingestion, connecting their data warehouses, like from public cloud to on-prem or something like that, creating those pipelines, building data warehouses and data lakes. That's the first kind of a process. The second thing is it's primarily about processing that particular data and generating some insights. We call it as like analytics or knowledge generation or something like that. So that's the role where people will be actually utilizing the data available into data warehouse or sometimes in data lake to generate some insights, plotting it out. I will put the BI analyst or business intelligence, dashboarding experts, visualization experts, everybody into this particular thing. So you will be generating some sense of the data and plotting it out. The third thing is where we will actually moving towards, like, for an example, building some models, some predictions or preventions around it. So I will put like a data scientist, ML engineers, AI engineers, all of them into one single category. My belief is that okay, the role of data scientist will go obsolete in next couple of years. So that's a strong statement, but that's my belief. I don't think that data scientist
That
will
is a
exist.
pretty strong statement. Yeah, I'm sure we'll dive into that later, but
yeah, so that's a third category where people will be actually utilizing that particular data, understanding the data based on some of what analysts are saying, and then building those models that will be working at a scale to predict something. So it will be more like an AI engineer or like an engineering roles. The fourth thing that we're talking about, it's more on the research side, where like the people will be actually building those models, building the technology more more from the scratch. So it will be like a research scientist role, AI scientist role. Primarily, I believe that okay, data scientists will start falling either in this bucket where you are defining a new model, or they have to evolve themselves into AI engineering into a previous thing where you need to solve a problem at scale. So these are the four, what I should say, the top categorization that my understanding is where the various roles lies and where people should be targeting that yes, in which bucket that they want to
go. Okay, got it. Yeah, I think that's a very structured way to describe this, and I think it will definitely benefit a lot of people in the room to understand like these four different classifications. Kavya, from your perspective, I'm sure some of it might resonate with you already, what Nitin has shared.
Yeah.
But typically the very common basic question that people ask, right, is between data analytics, data science, and data engineering, there might be levels of technicalities or technical understanding and capabilities that people need, right, to be able to fulfill the core responsibilities. So if you were to kind of stack them from a technical to non-technical standpoint, how would you stack them? And perhaps if you can share a little color about, the logic behind your stacking.
Yeah. So to put it very simply and straightforward, you kind of need to think of it from like a programming skills and a machine learning skills standpoint. And if you, for example, if you plot a graph on these two axes, all the roles that Nitin just described will fit somewhere in those four quadrants. So specifically, data engineering will require a little less of machine learning skills, but does require a lot of programming skills. So, oftentimes data engineers are working with large amounts of data, terabytes of data, gigabytes of data. So they should be pretty good at programming languages to be able to get that data, build pipelines, and do all of that efficiently so it's running fast. And for folks that are slightly non-technical, like business analysts or other types of analysts or product people, to be able to use data. So data engineering requires a lot of programming skills, little less of machine learning skills, but it doesn't hurt. Data scientists, AI, ML, and the top of the chart, which is AI scientists, are expected to be good at both programming as well as machine learning skills. So that's also these two. I think AI scientists, ML engineers, data scientists also fall somewhere there, but data scientists are not required to be like expert programmers. But if they are, then they will be evolving slowly into that AI space, like I said. So AI scientists, AI ML space will require high programming skills as well as high machine learning skills, and understanding of machine learning concepts. Should also be good at math. So that's also technical. Business analysts, data analysts, potentially business intelligence engineers. These are all, I would say, are closer to the business. And so they're the liaisons between the business and the data. And how do we, they're thinking more from like, how do we apply the metrics that we're seeing and the insights that we're seeing to grow a particular business. And they're working with non-technical folks a lot more. So I would say they're slightly less non-technical and would require other kinds of skills that are potentially not programming, some creative chops about how do we think about looking at our business, communication skills, interpersonal skills, because they'll be working with a lot of non-technical folks. So that's how I would think of it, like a programming skills like Python or Java or other kinds of programming languages, and machine learning skills where you'll be required to understand, let's say, what the hell is an XGBoost, or what is a logistic regression, or what is some other ML concept. So based on that, I would say data engineering is somewhat technical, AI ML is very technical, and business analytics falls somewhere in the non-technical. I wouldn't say non-technical, slightly less technical stuff.
Got it. Again, I think different perspective, but pretty much aligns with what Nitin was saying in terms of where things get fairly technical oriented as opposed to slightly less technically heavy. So in terms of the next topic, I think it's a good segue what Kavya you were talking about in terms of the different skill sets needed for the different kinds of roles. There are some fairly common technical skills that most of the data analytics folks are aware of just by doing a simple Google search, like knowing SQL, Python, R, and all of these things, right? And certain analytical tools as well. So, we can cover some of those basics, but I want to take this topic kind of slightly further in terms of understanding what are some of the, futuristic in-demand skills that you feel are on the rise from an employer requirement standpoint, right? So Nitin, in your perspective, as a business leader at Google, when you're hiring people, let's say at the entry level, what are some of the, core skills, technical and perhaps non-technical as well, that you would be looking for so that they can not just, fulfill their day-to-day job, but really have a long-term successful career in the field?
Cool. Interesting. Arjun, before answering that question, one disclaimer that these are the things that I look forward to in my team at Google. So I may not generalize it, but that's what I look out for. The thing is, sure. Arjun, my team is very, very focused on applied AI. Okay, our requirements are very different. And if I see that, okay, what kind of things that we are actually solving, we are working with our strategic customer. Most of them are Fortune 500, building technologies where some of the technologies does not even exist today. So we will be developing that sort of a complex thing. And we are solving a problem that does not have any structure. So for example, like we will be working with a customer and say that, okay, hey, we need to improve the revenue by 10% or 20%. That's the premise, that's the background. And based on that, what are the things that we will be looking out for? First thing, and that's like a non-negotiable for me, it's the problem solving skills. Okay, that's why whenever we actually interview, we intentionally give unstructured, vague problem statements to the candidates so that they can bring out the structure instead of getting baffled. I don't care about XGBoost. I don't care about random forest. I don't care about neural networks. I only care about, first thing is how the candidate is actually formulating a problem. I know it's a tough skill. It looks easy, but it's a very, very tough skills to bring the clarity. That's the first thing. The second thing is, Arjun, that's again tying back to the problem solving, is the communication. That how clearly you can actually explain your thought process and how clearly you can actually bring the solution out of it so that anybody else who can understand what you're talking about. So these are the two core things that I definitely look out for from the entry level individual. The third thing is what I look into the resume itself, the effort. So when I see the effort, I don't want to see that, yes, how many courses that individual has done. I don't care. I don't care that, okay, what kind of a degrees that they are carrying. It's a least impact for me. The thing is that I will be more interested if somebody has actually shared their GitHub profile or even like a single URL or something like that that I can click and I can see that, okay, hey, whether this person has solved a problem and end to end like any app or something like that. Only then I will be more interested in it. I'm not interested in the lead coding. I'm not interested in even if you are number one lead coder in the world. I don't think that, okay, my team is like a good suited for that person. So that's again for my team. I'm not generalizing it. You might be like a really brilliant candidate for some any other like a better word, but not in my team. Then comes to the fourth thing, Arjun. It's about the basics. When I say the basics, most of the times like candidate directly jumped on natural language and computer vision without discussing about like a very basic things. I'm not interested in the theoretical concept, but if I'm giving you a case study and if you can actually solve that problem and come up with that, okay, these are the base models I will be trying, this is why I will be trying, and this is how it's going to impact the results, that will be more important for me. I don't know about the nitty gritties about those algorithms. I don't know about that. Okay, if you need like know about all the detailed mathematics around it, I don't care if you know about the all the detailed statistics around it. Till that time, you know that okay, what you are doing and what this thing is doing, I'm totally fine. You can build those skills over a period of a time. AI, ML, these kind of a things takes time. I'm in this field for more than a decade. Even I cannot claim that okay, hey, like I am really an expert. And I read a lot. I read a lot seriously. So I cannot expect the similar kind of a thing from somebody who is joining at an entry level. So these are the four things, Arjun, that I will be really testing out very heavily, and that contributes 25% each to make a decision for the candidate selection.
Got it. Oh, you've clearly done this a few times before, Nathan. It shows, and I like how you didn't just specify some of the core technical skills, but really kind of contextualizing them into the larger picture of the business requirements, right? Like how do you actually use the real-time unstructured data available and translate it into something that will be able to add value to your end user or the end customer. I think that makes a lot of sense. Kavya, so just in the same vein but slightly different question for you. Going back to what I asked earlier, do you feel like there are any key skills which are becoming more and more important for data professionals in the years to come, which has been slightly less in focus, or it's just something because of the technologies that are evolving and the business requirements that are evolving for customers? What are some of the things people can do to stay relevant into the future?
Yeah, I think I'll keep the answer short because I think the answer is short. At least the thing that I observed in my time that has changed a lot is the evolution of cloud and the application of cloud in this world, in the data world. So be it a data engineering professional or a data analyst, business analyst, data scientist, or AI/ML, just the number of things you can do with cloud, from like workflow management to deploying your ML models faster, security. So just cloud in general being very, and that wasn't fully obviously the case a few years ago. So I think that one thing for me is what has become a lot more relevant now. In fact, like it is a must in many big companies that you are good with in the data field if you are, and if not, also there's many other cloud applications that are required for software engineers to know as well. So I think to be able to use cloud and know how to use it is like a basic now, which wasn't so much a few years ago. That's one thing I'll keep and keep short.
Yeah, no, I think it's very pointed, and probably will leave a stronger mark, if you leave the audience with that one most important trend that's up and coming. Apart from that, Kavya, do you feel like, Nitin pointed out some very important, critical, non-technical skills in terms of communication, and also problem solving, right?
Yeah.
Do you also agree with that assessment in terms of the non-technical skills that are needed? Are there any other skills that you would outline apart from those?
I think 100%. Any field, in fact, like forget data science or data engineering or whatever, like a product manager or a software engineer. I think every working professional will require to be able to be good at their job. Even a business leader, who they need to be able to be good at problem solving and communication. I think these two, as Nitin said, are just like, it goes without saying that they help you become better at what you're doing, and be a better just like contributor to whatever you're doing. Other skills, I think these two definitely are top. The other thing that I will talk about is understanding the you work with a lot of different teams in your day-to-day job. I think understanding each team's goals and figuring out how you work together it's often not stressed enough, but without understanding what the other person's and other teams' goals are, you can never work well together and see a project to completion. So I think within your company and within your org, it's really always good to be able to work well together without just, you have problem solving skills, you're a great communicator, but it's still not going further than where it is. It means like you to be able to understand different teams and how they fit together in the larger picture, I think is important. You can't be in your own cocoon and be working on, let's say, building that aspect as well. So I would say that.
Perfect. Got it. Nitin, just a follow-up question for you here. In terms of the skills that are becoming important, I think we learned some of that from you and Kavya just now. In terms of actually acquiring these skills, right? Have you come across some better ways of acquiring the skills that you outlined, especially from a technical standpoint? So sometimes when people come to us and they talk about data analytics, data science, they ask if taking a certification course on, let's say, Coursera or Udemy would actually make any impact, or is it really necessary to go to a 6-month, 1-year boot camp, or perhaps even getting a master's like both you and Kavya have is kind of the bare minimum that's needed to become a data professional at companies like Google and Amazon?
Okay, Arjun, again disclaimer. Okay, before answering, because some of my answers are very very radical. Again, my personal thoughts. First thing is, Arjun, just one quick fact. I will say, nobody in my team is a master's. Okay, all of them are engineers, only bachelors. I'm not generalizing it. That's a fact, and that's a data point that I have for my team. Okay, the point is, I did my master's and I'm currently enrolled in the MS from Georgia Tech as a full-time professional. I did my MBA because of certain reasons, but I never thought that okay, I will going to be a data scientist after that master. And I never even trusted that degree. It eventually happened. Okay, I'm a big fan of Udacity, these kind of MOOC courses. Very easy to consume, very practical, very thought-provoking, and delivered by the industry professionals who are actually solving those problems. Data and AI/ML is a field where you need a lot of investment. You need a lot of data to process it. I don't trust like any academic institute who can actually provide me that sort of a skills that will be directly transferable to the industry. That's my observation. right? Because the thing is, majority of the data professional or AI professional, they are very expensive, who are really good. I know that, okay, yes, what I'm earning or other people are earning. But the thing is, education institutes cannot afford them. Simple, it's not going to happen. In India, we really and seriously lack that kind of a collaboration between academics and industry. It's happening eventually. I can see some of the courses. I was at IIT Jodhpur. I discussed that, okay, yes, they're coming up with a new course where professionals will be teaching it. Indian Institute of Science (ISC) will be coming up with that. IIT Delhi is coming up with that. Like now it's coming up, but we are still very far away from that. With that thing, Arjun, yes, I strongly suggest go for a Udemy, Udacity, that sort of programs, Coursera, so that you will be getting a practical sense, and then talk to people. Talk to people that, okay, hey, what kind of a problems that you're solving? The kind of a problems that you're actually getting at Kaggle, you will never be getting that kind of a problem in the real life. I can give you an example. For an example, you're working with one of the bank, and I shared this kind of a case study when I was at IIC as well. That the problem that they will be coming up with, hey, I want to automate my KYC processing. The question is, you tell me, how will you be doing that? You need to decide if AIML is going to be the right technology or not. Nobody will tell you that, okay, use AIML and solve this problem. You need to decide that, okay, this is the right technology. You need to define a problem, what the KYC is, what it can be used. Are you going to use natural language? Are you going to use Vision API? Are you like a computer vision? Are you going to use like something else? Start thinking to that thing. So my to solve a problem, people who can write algorithms, trust me, but you'll find very few people who can solve a problem for you.
Got it. So again, very clear, and I like that you put a disclaimer, but I would still say that the answer intuitively makes a lot of sense. I think we might segue to the next topic here because we are getting a lot of questions from our audience. Basic question, right? Kavya, maybe you can answer this one. Let's say I don't want to jump into core data field as a data professional, right? But let's say I'm working in marketing or I'm working in another function like HR or finance, right? And data is everywhere. It's not always centralized just with the data function within a company, especially for the SMEs, right? So in this case, how can a functional person, a professional working in marketing or finance or HR, can leverage their existing skill set and acquire certain basic analytical skills to level up their game and kind of actually make use of the large data sets that they have without going to the data function within their firm?
Yeah, I think they're at an advantage that they're like subject matter experts in their business side of things. So be in marketing or finance or HR, whatnot. And the beauty is that there is data in every org and in every application. There will be, that marketing person can be challenging themselves and thinking about solving like a marketing analytics problem that is otherwise being solved by some data analyst in the company. Or the HR person can do the same with some sort of like HR data that they have access to, similar to finance. So I think it comes down to the initiative of like, let me learn this and let me learn this myself. I think the simple way to do it is maybe chat with the person that is actually solving the problem in the company. Ask them what are the steps what is required, what do they do to be able to come to the end of whatever they're doing from like a data analytics or data science standpoint. And then piece that in, like break that into pieces. I think a project will never be done in a day, like, and an end-to-end is never done in a day. And I think Nitin will agree that a lot of times we're just thinking about the problem and thinking about what are the things we need to, what are the processes that are that we need to follow to kind of come to the end point. It's less about like actually going and doing something. So or like a lot of times in, you know, simple like data science projects or whatever, it's a lot about getting the data and cleaning it, literally cleaning it to make sure that you can actually do what you want to do. There's two things that we focus on that take the most time, and there's the last thing that takes the least time. The one that takes the least time is building a model. It takes absolutely almost no time compared to the two things that I'm going to say. One is, what is the problem statement? Aligning on that problem statement. What are we trying to solve? How are we trying to solve that will take a lot of time, and especially like a lot of different ways in doing it, right? There's not just one way for it. So what is the most effective and efficient way? Aligning on that will take a lot of time. And the second is like the data part that I just mentioned, like collecting that data, processing it, cleaning it in a way where it's utilizable and whatnot. So for a marketing professional, break it down into tasks. I think the first task is almost something to do with extracting data. That's where you will be, you know, exposed to SQL if the data is stored in some sort of a data warehouse. And SQL is one of the most easiest skills to acquire and learn. It's almost like English language, if I can say that. So, you know, I'm saying this not from a place of arrogance or anything. I've taken a lot of time to actually master that skill, but you know, it is, in comparison to other skills, I think it is the easier skill to acquire. So I think a lot of like non-technical folks should definitely start with some of the acquiring some of the basic data extraction, data cleaning kind of skills. And they can, I think, partnering with a data expert in their company that actually does that and breaking it into tasks, doing that data extraction, doing some sort of validation projects. I think it will give them, first of all, confidence. I think this ties to your previous question also, Arjun. It's not so much about finishing boot camps or finishing courses. It's more about building confidence through these, right? Like you can be watching 100 videos, and when you're actually given a task in your day-to-day job, you'll probably freeze. So it's even like Kaggle or, you know, or some other GitHub project that you do. It's more to build your confidence. So actually, when you see that project through, you can actually use that confidence to be able to solve something in the real world, which to Nitin's point is probably completely different from what you're doing in a boot camp or online, right? But that builds confidence. And I think that is important to be able to tell yourself that, okay, you finished this. 2 weeks ago, you didn't know anything about this. And which means like that you've created a path for yourself to be able to pivot into that other field that you want, that you're interested in for some reason, right? So yeah, I think doing it is the only way to build confidence. And then when you are actually in that job, I think that job will actually look completely different than what you've imagined. But then, you know, you have the tangible and non-tangible skills to be able to, you know, move forward from there as well. So I would say just do it. Take a project, just do it.
Yeah, no, solid advice there. So the next question that I want to take up is it's going to be a little broad, but centered around people crafting their job search strategy when they're looking for a data role. You know, there are professionals from different stages of careers, right? There might be certain people who are, you know, just freshers, recent graduates. Then there are folks who might be, you know, similar to the instance we discussed, you know, be in a specific function, but are looking to become more of data professionals. And then there are certain people who might have even, you know, work gaps, you know, after doing engineering or certain other technical roles, and are now considering coming back into the workforce and, you know, wanting to go into a data career. So different kinds of instances, and I'm sure there can't be a one-size-fit-all solution for all of these professionals in terms of identifying the right opportunities. But Nitin, if you could highlight some of the things that you have already mentioned and then add on to them, what are some of the core solutions, advice, or tips you would give for people to stand out when they're applying for a data role? I think you had mentioned in terms of having a GitHub profile and having a URL which showcases that you have taken actual projects, similar to what Kavya has shared. Could we delve a little deeper into those aspects and perhaps anything new that you would like to add on this?
Sure. Arjun, I've already shared some of the thoughts, the kind of skills that we'll be looking out for, but those skills actually change. So we had a discussion about what are the skills needed for entry-level job, right? So, but those skills actually change if you're transitioning from a middle management or middle career level to something else. If you're doing your master's, but you're carrying some experiences, then the kind of expectations it will be changing from you. One of the core thing, Arjun, that we are looking out for in this AI, ML or data science field is storytelling. Okay, so that's actually being judged when you're going to tell your story to the people. When I say to the people, it can be like a recruiter or a hiring manager, and that particular story must be trustworthy. That okay, hey, this is what you're doing. I don't care about resume gap, but I care about why there is a gap. Okay, what were you doing? Like you say that, okay, I was sleeping. Okay, cool. You need some break. You say that, okay, hey, for an example, I was trying some startups. Okay, cool, perfect. That's a different kind of experience. You can say that, okay, hey, I went for like this kind of a camp. Okay, cool, perfect. I will see education is also as a gap. Like you are just able to identify and justify that gap. Like a 2 years, what were you doing? I was doing this particular master's degree to get this certification to bring those skill sets. So you need to build that particular story that yes, to justify that gap. It can be anything. You do not need to like what I should say cover it up, but you should be comfortable that this is your reality. That's the first thing I do. The second thing is as you grow in your career in this data science, one skill that will be really needed is sales. Okay, you need to sell yourself, you need to sell your team, you need to sell your product, you need to sell your idea. And sometimes like that, okay, yes, you need to sell your organization. It can be anything. That's going to be the most important piece, irrespective of any technical skills or anything. We used to have like a leadership sessions at Google, and one of my leader, I really loved his advice on this thing, that 4 things will be really needed as you grow up in your career. And that again tied back to this particular thing when I was talking about this leadership. First thing is the knowledge. The knowledge comes with your strong background, from your strong technical background, that okay, yes, what kind of a problems that we have solved, what kind of a problems that you can solve. The second thing is the leadership. Leadership means that okay, yes, how you can actually convince people, how you can communicate it across your audience, just like Kavya mentioned about like working cross-functionally across teams. So you need to be very sure about that, yes, how to take risk and how to evaluate risk. Third thing is a thought leadership. If somebody says that okay, hey, you are an expert in natural language, how do you see that okay, this field is evolving? That thought is your thought leadership, because that's what you believe from your exposure, from your experience, from your knowledge. So you should be very clear that yes, what way that you should be working on, new ideas, what kind of a problems that you should be solving, and so on and so forth. And the fourth thing is the impact. What's the impact that you're actually making? In my experience, Arjun, impact will always be the dollar value. Okay, if you're not making a dollar value impact, everything is most of the time it's fluff. So that's why majority of the time nobody cares about precision, recall, accuracy, F1. Nobody cares about those metrics. Okay, we spend a lot of time to learn about it. Everybody cares about tell me this. How much do you need to build this thing? What's my break even and how much money will I make? Simple. Tell them these 3 figures with a 0% accuracy, they will be happy, and the project is a success. So that's my thing. Build your skill set based on these 4 verticals, and then try like a various roles as per your current status.
Oh, I think you're muted.
Yeah, similar question, but I'll take it a step further. Let's say somebody's applying at Amazon or any other similar large tech company for a data role, right? And
Right.
one of the high-level advice that we have shared already is it's better to kind of create practical portfolios and projects that you can showcase to your prospective employers. to, kind of indicate your seriousness or capability in the field. Now, can you give us a little bit of a step-by-step process for the candidate who is actually now working for the first time on building their project? Perhaps, where they should start, what kind of tools they should be using, and then what really they should be hoping to achieve by the end of that portfolio or that project that they're building.
Is this for me? Sorry, I missed the part where, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you repeat your question? Because I thought this was a different question, but then once you finished it, it felt like a different question.
No worries. Basically, I was trying to help people who are just considering a role in data and are working on their, let's say, first set of projects, building their portfolio, as Nitin and you have mentioned, are quite critical when they're applying for a role in the field, right? So, what kind of projects do you think might help people indicate their seriousness and capability in the field? And B, what stepwise procedure and tools they should be using to accomplish that project, and what should they be looking to achieve by the end of that project?
Yeah, that's a very broad question. I think I'll start with just saying zero down on the, we spoke about the different data roles, right? Zero down on the data role that you're interested in first, and then things will be slightly different depending on the data role that you've zeroed down on. For example, if you're shooting for an AI scientist role, I think a lot of online public presence in some sort will help, even if you've had somewhat of a different experience, but you building towards that public presence. Or when I say public presence, working on open source tools, open source platforms, and working on writing, I think, research papers, stuff like that will help. But then for a data engineer, that will look completely different, what project they'll be working on and what tools they'll be working on to finish that project. But I think wherever you are in your profession, in your career right now, if you're, for example, switching from a product role, thinking about a data science or some sort of a data role, do a almost do a project, such projects in your resume. But then also it is really important to find roles that match your resume. It's not like you can today wake up and apply for a data scientist where you've just had 4 or 5 projects that can speak to it. It's maybe your first step will be somewhat of product analytics in that company, whatever that looks like. And then eventually you get into the company in that product analytics role because you have some product experience and you've had those 4 or 5 projects that you've worked on that is in that product data cusp. You get into the product analytics role, and then you build it up from there. Take up a couple of data science projects, or whatever else that you're interested in to advance your career. Take it step by step. As Nitin said, folks in this field have been in the field for a long time and are still can't call themselves experts in some field, right? Even in data science, AI, ML, there's generalist folks, but they're also specialists. And those specialists actually work towards specializing in a certain very niche problem that they're solving for. So I would say just build a path towards your end, whatever your dream is. Don't be disappointed. I think it's a longer journey than you think, but building a path and working step by step towards it is important. In terms of projects, there's there's a lot you learn on the job. I can't stress enough that there's a lot of things that you learn on the job. There's a lot, but then there's a lot of other things that you can actually build when you don't have that dream job that you want, right? You can work on projects. Like I said, that is what you have right now to be able to get to the dream job. So there's a bunch of online resources that will give you project ideas for each of the roles. I would say the most like known skills and tools to answer your question. I think if I had to pick one and ask someone to actually build a project around that, I think I would say this Python. I'm just giving like very tactical answers here. I'm not like zooming out and telling them everything, but it's just like if you want to be, if I want to give like a tactical answer, stick to one programming language or one skill that you want to learn and learn that well. And then find projects that wherever you are in your profession right now, find projects that relate to data, work on that, find a role that fits that cusp of whatever your previous role is and the new role that would be, find a middle role and then get into the field. I think breaking into the field is the most difficult. And then you can graduate and just hone your skills a lot more eventually.
Yeah, no, I think that's prudent advice because we come across a lot of folks who are trying to make very drastic transitions, right? Where they have very limited skills that would be transferable to their, to the future or desired role. And I think data could be potentially one of those areas, right? Where people from very different functions who don't have exposure to data are thinking about data analytics because they consider it as one of the more up and coming kind of future careers that will only grow in importance. So breaking it into multiple steps and transitioning in multiple phases as opposed to just doing it in one straight go might be a de-risked and more effective way of doing it. So definitely agree with that thought, Kavya. And the next question is a slightly, I would say, quite specialized question. It's not broad like the earlier one. So Hemant has asked that he recently started learning about NLP to solve some of the problems in his organizations, but all of the articles that he has read are generally vague, and he's not really able to transition from being a beginner to an expert, right? Nitin or Kavya, either of you, would you be able to share your thoughts on how Hemant and other folks like him can go on from becoming a beginner to at least an intermediate professional or perhaps even an expert? What are some of the most efficient and effective steps you would suggest? Nitin, do you want to take this one, or Kavya? I'm happy either way.
Kavya from the start.
Should I go? I think
sure.
it's hard to answer exactly that question without knowing a little bit more about what is the problem. But right, I think like I said, a lot of time goes into finding alignment in how to solve the problem. So I would say don't be discouraged. First of all, that is what I would say, because a lot of times you're searching for something exactly to fit your problem and you don't find that. But then I guess there's a lot of, I think I would say there's a lot of like forums that are like more Q&A in some of these online blogs or even online learning platforms. Just go and read those. If there's any other articles that are pointing towards a specific problem that they've solved, oftentimes there's a lot of folks in the field that are writing blogs about the problems that they're solving, specific business problems that they're solving. I remember when I was new to the field, there was like a marketing mix model that I was building, and I had no idea how to build it. I had absolutely no idea how to build it. And so when I was actually in the same position as Hemant, who asked the question, I couldn't find anything that fit exactly what I wanted. So it could be a little disheartening, but I would say there's a lot of, in the last 6 years, there's a lot of improvement in just people writing blogs about their actual real world problems and going, literally giving you step-by-step instructions of what you need to be doing, what is the next step, even sometimes even giving you the code and whatnot. So I would say it's hard to give you an exact answer, not knowing enough, Hemant, but I would say look, and maybe one day you'll actually find it. I don't know. Do you have a better answer, Nathan?
No, I think my views are very much coherent to what you said, Kavya. The thing is, in my experience, there are no learning paths that defined. So each and every individual need to go through their own journey. So if you say that, okay, hey Nathan, can you tell me a silver bullet that yes, these are things and these are the courses I should take, and I can move from beginner to expert. I don't have any of those things. My journey is that okay, yes, I learned natural language through some of the deep learning.ai courses. Then I actually selected one of the cloud provider. For me, it's a Google Cloud. So that how to actually implement natural language over there. Then some of the courses on edX and on edX is really good. I recently finished one of the nano degree from Udacity. It's again on natural language. So that I really liked it. Some of the content over there. Read some of the books, and then you decide that okay, yes, which are the fields that you want to go in natural language. The field itself is very broad. And now when talking about like our large language models, people started talking about like, hey, forget about PyTorch and TensorFlow, start learning about JAX. That's like kind of the framework that Google come up with. So you need to decide that okay, hey, on what side that you want to go. That okay, like even in the natural language as a field itself, it's very huge. So if you say that okay, hey, you will be an expert, I don't think that okay, Jeff Dean or Jeff Hinton, even if they are saying that okay, they are the experts. So it's a journey. Just enjoy the journey. Keep exploring stuff. A lot of videos that you will find on YouTube, they are really good. Some of the courses that Stanford came up with, that's really good. So internally, we actually started sharing some of the learning path for but it's just like that, okay, these are the few things, these are the few papers that you should read and then you should be aware of. For example, recently, Amazon published a paper on Alexa again, that is a teacher model. So very good insights around it, attention network. So there's no typical learning path that you say, hey, take these courses line by line and then you will be an expert. So it's a journey you need to go through, and I'm very sure that a few years down the line, your journey will be as hard.
Okay. Can you all hear me? I'm having a little bit of a spotty connection. Kavya, you can hear me? Okay, great.
Yeah.
So the next question, and this one has been asked twice, so I definitely want to cover this before we end our session, and I know we are coming up on time. So perhaps just one or two other questions, and then we'll wrap it up. Nitin, this one was addressed a little more to you, right, in terms of like enhancing your problem-solving skills. You had mentioned, that it's one of the most critical things, and Kavya had echoed similar thoughts. Can you perhaps share a very high-level example of, an unstructured problem that, a person who is looking to get into data field could take and solve, as a portfolio project, and how that can actually be done in a way where it showcases the person's problem-solving skills?
Interesting, yeah. So Arjun, the thing is, there are a few ways. There are a lot of ways. I think what you can do, you can actually identify some of the blog posts published by some of the top companies. I'm not just saying the FANG companies, but they're like some really good work done by a few other companies as well. And then understand that, okay, hey, what kind of a use cases, what kind of a problems that they are solving. Try to find something similar, some similar kind of data set available in open source. So for an example, I can give an example. So one problem that we're working with Apollo 247. Apollo is like one of the pharmacy in India. It's a public reference. So we came up with a problem that, hey, we need to build a system for CDSS, clinical decision support system. For an example, you say, hey, based on the patient records, these are the kind of a conditions that patient is facing, and this is what patient described. Can you actually plot that particular condition on a temporal graph? You can say that, okay, for an example, if I'm Nitin and I share my condition and say that, okay, hey doctor, I'm facing fever for last 1 day, last 1 week, for the last 2 or 3 days, I'm getting anxiety and panic attacks. From the yesterday itself, I started like getting some diarrhea and high blood pressure, and so on and so forth. So can you actually plot it as a time series problem and identify, hey, for this particular patient, these are the problems. This is when it started. This is when it ended. So this is a problem that is, so just like this kind of a problem, take simple problem. Like I can give you some of those simple problems. Hey, how can I automate KYC? Like know your customer processing. How can I automatically process an Aadhaar card or a PAN card? How can I predict the customer lifetime value, right? In telecom, I saw one of the use case, somebody asked about telecom. It's like churn prediction or, for example, predicting maintenance. How can I do that? So these are a lot of use cases that you will find where data is available, but you need to come up with a problem. And for that, you need to understand that domain. That yes, what are the problems that as an individual you are facing? Take any problem that, for example, if you're talking about e-commerce, you are searching something on Flipkart or Amazon. Okay, you say that okay, based on your search, you're not getting good results. Can you build some classifier around it? So it's around you that okay, you need to understand, you need to come up with a problem, and that's what I was talking about. Nobody's going to give you the problem. You need to define the problem. You need to come up with a problem, and that will be actually converting into a project or a product moving forward. Nobody will come to you and say that okay, this is the problem and so on and so forth. Can you solve it out? So it can happen in certain instances where you will be working more on the reactive setting, but people are more curious to know that yes, what kind of thought process you are carrying. So that's my, like, those are my 2 cents.
Got it. Yeah, I think thanks for sharing those examples. Rajat, I hope you got the kind of insights you were looking for. One last question that I want to take, and this is actually core to what Pivot does in terms of helping people transition from one field to another. Obviously, Nitin, Kavya, you both have done it yourself, right? You started as an engineer, you moved into data. Aditi's question is that she currently works in testing QA background and is looking to move into data. Even though we have kind of helped people actually make the transition and you have done it yourself, there's still a lot of hesitation that whether recruiters in reality would hire somebody from a non-traditional background or with a non-data, non-technical kind of a background. So in reality, would you say that there is a decent probability of any candidate who doesn't have a traditional data related background be able to break into the field? Or are there any specific challenges that you foresee they should be overcoming? And if so, how? Kavya, maybe you can take up this one.
Yeah, I think I'll keep it short, but because we're running out of time. But yeah. I think the very real advice I'll give is, like I said this earlier as well, start simple, start with the basic especially if you're coming from a completely different background and don't have like enough on your resume. Start simple, go for like a data analyst role to begin with, get enough experience. And while you're actually working as a data analyst, you can actually start working on projects on the side within the company that you're working at. Take stretch goals within your role in that company that are more than just data analytics, and grow over time into whatever you want to get into. So breaking into the field will require you to start from the beginning. If that's not absolutely what you want to do and you want to just go all in, I think of showing some sort of a seriousness on your resume will help, which means that taking a boot camp for 5 or 6 months. For some people this will click, but for some people it may not click. But taking a boot camp or a master's degree, I think will definitely show that you're in this field for to stay and whatnot. So I would say start if you wanna start immediately, and I think that that is quite wise. Then go into a data analyst or some sort of a beginner role in a company that you would really like. And sometimes it's also about the company that you want to get into, right? Sometimes people find it attractive to get into big tech companies, and it's fine for them to get into a beginner role and then to grow in that company. Sometimes it's not that. It's you want to get into a smaller company where you're the jack of all trades and you're doing like multiple things. You're good at like multiple things. It really depends on where you want to see yourself in terms of not just the skills and the role, but also the company size, the domain specifically. Is it finance? Is it banking? Or is it consumer tech? There's a lot of verticals as well. So, but yeah, I would say either taking a beginner role up and then growing in that way, or going all in, maybe getting a serious degree could definitely help show seriousness.
Perfect. Thanks for reiterating that, Kavya. I know you covered a lot of it earlier, you and Nitin both. So thanks so much for sharing all of those insights, knowledge, experiences. I hope everybody who joined us today gathered these insights and made note of it. I do want to say that we have both Nitin and Kavya on our Pivot platform, and they provide one-on-one guidance to people who are looking to break into the field or just grow in their data careers. So if you are looking to speak with them and get personal guidance on your specific situation, feel free to reach out to them via our platform. I will be sharing the link here. It's mypivot.work, mypivot.work. With that, I just want to wrap it up, and thanks everybody who joined us today, and especially Nitin and Kavya. Thank you so much for taking the time out for this. I had a blast. I hope you enjoyed it too, and look forward to perhaps doing another one sometime.
Thank you, Arjun. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.